You and I discuss this all the time. There's maybe a friend here, a friend there. They don't like this. They don't support that. They don't come to this opening. But when you marry somebody, that should be your built-in cheerleader. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to One More Day. I'm your host, SJ.
Hey, guys. I'm Diva Mile.
And thank you guys so much for joining us yet again for another week. Mm-hmm. We have been really cranking out the videos, right?
Yes. Do we look like it?
Really?
Eye twitching. No.
Right. Eye twitching. But we really want to thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. We are so grateful for the response so far. We are over 25 videos now, and we are just completely enamored by people's responses and how they feel about the show, right?
Yes, it just feels encouraging. We used to watch lots of episodes and series of different shows, and the fact that we were able to finish the first episode.
I know, just completing that one
season, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at it as seasons, but we're just going to continue on as much as we can. We have a lot in store. We have a lot of different things that are going to make us busy this season, besides our baby and our lives. But we just really want to commit to this show. And so, housekeeping, before all that comes in with today's subject, we want you to hit that subscribe button, please.
Yes.
And hit the notification bell.
Hit it.
And leave us a comment, guys. We want to really converse more in the chat.
And we enjoy interacting with you guys. We're not just doing this for ourselves.
That's right.
We want to reach out, connect.
That's right.
Build friendships and relationships.
Absolutely. We want to get to know all of you way better. Mm-hmm. And we also want you guys to let us know in the chat if the time that we release our videos is okay for you. We know we're living in Asia, and some of our audience is in New York and other places in America, because I'm from New York. And, we have everybody from Swaziland, Taiwan, New York. So it's a really hard thing to navigate. So if there's a vote, we will change our time slot. Right now, we're coming out in the UTC time at 2 p.m. And that also deals with our blog and also stuff like that. I actually was just thinking right now, I said blog, but I got to get the audio onto Podbean.
Yes.
So right now is actually, as we're shooting, there's a premiere of one of our episodes. So there's just so many different moving parts, but thank God for his mercy and not being perfect. But with that being said,
What's today's topic, honey?
It's interesting. We did shoot this video before.
We did.
We got to be honest. Can we be honest?
Yeah.
We shot this video before early on, and we had some really good subjects to talk about in the video besides the main topic. There were just these different things that we were talking about. It was multi-layered and it was great, but you can say how you were. I guess you were just a little tired.
I was dreaming, literally sleeping. I was sleeping or talking in my sleep.
Diva Mile was on mommy autopilot. And I personally,
human
pilot. Right. And we're not adverse to feedback, especially if it's constructive criticism. When it comes to our show, we want it to be better, right? So some people have said different things, and one of the things in particular, I didn't want this podcast to feel like we're interviewing each other only. I was hoping that we were really having a conversation as a married couple. So with that being said, we wanted it to be a really even playing field with this particular subject, because I think people would love to hear what it is that our personal desires are. And so today's topic is dreams, and in particular dreams and how they are seen once you get married, once you're in a committed relationship. How do those dreams change? How do they kind of reconfigure? How do they pivot? And so we'll revisit some of the stuff that was in the original, but it'll probably be fresher and newer since we've had some time away.
No,
from the subject. Yeah.
I mean, everyone has a dream. So it will be really good to first share what were our dreams before we even got together as a married couple. I remember having different dreams. Growing up, I loved performing by myself in my room or in front of my family. Especially there's one time we moved to New York. I decided to play Toni Braxton's video cassette with all her music videos.
Okay.
Dressed like her. stood in front of my siblings and I was just mimicking her songs, her dances.
What was like
Tony.
your jam? What was that? Because I love me some Tony, as you know.
You mean the world to me.
All right, we ain't going to be able to clear that.
Yeah, I mean, I was in it. I thought it was Tony.
Okay.
I don't even know what I was doing.
I know that's right.
But my family did recognize that, hey, Duvamile loves to just perform and entertain herself even, if not, I would talk to my toys. I always had this, ta-da, I'm here to perform. And I would even ask my brother to follow me with the tissue box.
Oh, really?
As a camera. Just being in front of the TV. Not sure why. TV screen, at least.
But why the tissue box? Because that's showing that people are crying over your performances? What was the point of
it was
tissue
like
box?
a camera. It was pretend camera.
So the whole of the tissue box is like the lens.
The whole box. Not the actually roll, but the tissue.
I know, I got it. The Kleenex box?
Kleenex.
I got you.
That's it.
Brought to you by Kleenex. No.
One day.
Absolutely. One more day.
Holla at us. Yeah, so, dreams have come in different phases in my life.
For sure.
Stage performance, acting, singing.
But was it with that, you're speaking of many wonderful things. Obviously, I can relate to that. But was it crystal clear? Did it change? And in terms of being married, did it pivot?
Oh, I definitely think it not only changed, but it matured. And first of all, for me, dreams, I've learned since I've been growing up,
right,
that a dream is not just a dream, like an idea that you want to pursue, but it has become a purpose using your gifts.
That's good.
And so when I was young, I remember, I think at 7, I was like watching a play at school and I was like, I want to do that. I want to perform. I think Michael Jackson's song was playing. I was like, I want to do that. And I realized I had that desire because sometimes I had select mutism where I would just not talk in front of like public.
Right, you've mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, and so acting helped me come out of that space.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes, and so that's why I started pursuing performance and acting, because of that reason. But my true purpose of following my dream, I think it was when I started my first career as a English lecturer. I taught English drama, performance art, and I was able to use my gifts to help other young people who maybe they're shy in the beginning, but at the end of the class, they're just like, I can do anything.
Right.
And so I appreciated my dream of entertainment and performance even more.
But what you did in terms of being a professor, you kind of reconfigured the dream, or you structured it where you were utilizing those gifts in a different capacity than maybe you expected? Is that fair to say?
I would say so, because I found purpose in it.
I see.
It wasn't just like I want to chase my dreams so everyone can see my talent.
It didn't have to be you shining in the typical way, meaning that all eyes on you, celebrity fanfare. You just knew that your purpose was to utilize entertainment, acting, theater to bring maybe joy to others in some way.
Absolutely. And I do appreciate that, because I think if I just was, no, I'm going to go for this, I don't care what anyone says, I would have lost more development in my personality and other gifts that I could share.
Understood.
I mean, living in Taiwan, I did have Sony Music approach me. I had Taiwan Idol ask me to join their singing competition.
Yeah.
And I always declined. I just felt like, this is not right. This is not what I should be doing.
Wow.
It wasn't easy.
Sure.
But I didn't feel the freedom of like, this is it.
I got you.
But I mean, this will probably like part 2, part 3. We don't know.
That's okay.
But you asked me a question, how is that in marriage?
Yeah. Did those things you mentioned, teaching, performance, all of that was wrapped up in your fulfillment to fulfill your purpose as a teacher. Now, when we got married, you were still teaching.
I was still teaching, knowing I would resign.
Knowing you would resign after a long time, over a decade or around a decade of time.
Much, yeah.
And so you were going into this new phase, but that doesn't mean that your dreams died, right? What did you dream some other dream after
That's
that?
the thing, though. When you do use your gifts with purpose, you could also forget your dream, like why you even started doing
So
this
your
type of
dream
job.
got a little bit lost
It
in the
got
job, in the
lost
career.
in the
Do
career.
you think that was because it was financially stable and you were like, listen, I mean, if the finances are there, I have a roof over my head. This is allowing me to kind of just function as an adult woman. Was that a part of the attachment without kind of saying, okay, I've had enough, let me move on? What.
I think it's two ways. It could have been that I didn't bother to understand more deeper, like why did I even enjoy doing this dream or sharing this dream.
Sure,
And
sure,
so
sure.
having a husband who understands that not only helped awaken those dreams, but gain more knowledge of how to pursue them this way.
Understood.
And I mean, there's so many things already that has evolved in our marriage regarding our dreams that is helping us pursue it
Yeah.
and still waiting to see what's to come.
Right.
But that confidence is there, that motivation is there, and understanding why we even were put together to continue those dreams.
So being together is making it clearer for you.
It's making it clear and giving a new perspective that my dreams too were also to partner with someone.
Sure.
And that someone is you. That's, in my own opinion, that's how I feel.
I understand and I would agree. So what are there remnants of the dream that you feel are completely dead, or is every part of what you feel like your ultimate dream still budding inside of you, still a longing for or desire to fulfill?
I think I'm in the process where I'm going back to my reflection season where I'm listening again. Okay, you gave me these dreams and these thoughts. Why exactly? You know, I love acting. Was it because I'll meet a husband who is an actor? So to support him well, I had to understand that world. Or was it really my dream? Because I'm also understanding some of the things I'm interested in was to help me have more knowledge or motivation of how to support you too.
I see.
But it wasn't necessarily for me.
I see.
If that
I
makes
see.
sense.
No, I that is a very interesting perspective because it's a very complex way of looking at things, and not just internally, but just also externally, seeing how someone else's dream can be held up by your support. Hey family, if you've been enjoying this podcast today, please be sure to
Subscribe and hit that notification bell.
Thank you so much for your support. Now back to today's episode.
How is that now played off in our marriage?
You know, in this moment that we're filming this, I've had a very, very emotional time reconciling with my dreams. The first time we recorded this, I'll be honest, I was talking about different examples, and I still, even in that time, which was maybe a month ago, didn't have a grasp of maybe what I was dealing with. What I'm dealing with now is, in marriage, my dream is you guys. My dream is my wife and my daughter. I feel
that's deep.
yeah, because it's so funny. People say that you have a child and everything changes. And of course, when we got married, everything changed. But when you have a child, this is a human that you had something to do with bringing forth.
Yeah.
So when you look into that child's eyes, your DNA, you and I don't share DNA, but we share a love that we don't ever want to break, right?
Yes.
But our child is one half you, one half me. And looking into her eyes recently, I had to reevaluate how far I was going to take this. I'm striving for this and not considering the fact that all of that to me doesn't really matter. As much as it matters, it doesn't really matter in terms of the overall purpose, which is now I'm her father. And I would say that was my biggest fear in pursuing dreams, because I knew I wanted a family, but I knew that that would take a certain level of sacrifice where I would have to say, is it the dream or is it your family? And I don't believe you have to choose. No one here is making me choose. But because I feel like I'm in a valley state, and for the listeners, I feel like my valley is I'm still looking for some direction with my dreams, because all the amenities of the dream seem like I've touched the hem of it, but not the full garment. Not to get all biblical, but I've touched the surface. I've done a few things that are legitimate in the world of performance and acting and Hollywood, and they're just touching the surface. The music industry, I still feel like I haven't even really touched the surface on that. I've been around people who've really been immersed. I've been around many different wonderful, wonderful musicians and recording artists, and artists who are really doing this thing, making money doing it. But the associations don't make me feel like I'm in it, because it's just in this scenario, you're not guilty by association. You have to earn these things that you yourself, beyond someone else legitimizing you, you yourself can feel the legitimization in accomplishing that goal. So if you were to ask me a few years ago, how do I feel about my dreams? I would probably be in more despair about it, because there was such a fervent pursuit of a specific type of dream.
I see. Yeah.
It was so specific. I won't say I'm wrestling. I'm accepting the fact that the dream is going to look and feel different now that there are different elements in the picture.
Please elaborate that. What do you mean?
So what I was saying is that I would be in despair if I were to talk about my dream a few years ago, because I wasn't, in my opinion, getting where I needed to go. And then I said, my family is now my dream, like reconfigured. So it doesn't mean that I completely give up on the main goals that I had before for myself in terms of dreaming for particular things, particular positions, particular jobs. It's just now I have to look at it like it's going to feel, sound, and be different, because I was actually looking at it from a single man's perspective.
Okay. Yeah. When you say that, a few things come up. Well, first of all, you mentioned single man's perspective. And then in the beginning, you said, my dream is you and my child. I think of the verse, in Psalms or Proverbs that says, delight in myself and I will give you the desires
of your heart.
And delighting myself, that's God speaking. Like, delight in me and I'll just give you the desires of my heart, of your heart. And then I think about Genesis, how in the beginning, in the beginning, the dream that God had was men and female and male. And they were a symbol of marriage, of two people being together to rule over the earth, the birds in the air, the fish in the sea. So you're telling me before you had a dream that you were chasing after as a single man, but after being married, you're having a new perspective of how that looks like.
Right.
It sort of sounds like basically going back to the original plan. God says, you do have dreams. I gave you dreams.
Right.
But my first dream is actually you being married. Does that make sense?
Well, he instructs us to be fruitful and multiply, right?
Yeah.
And he gives us a lot of different instructions. And if you are a believer and that is what you've dedicated your life to, is to Christ, you have to look at it from a different perspective.
Yes.
You cannot look at it in the perspective of just me. Because if that's the case, then my purpose is just for me to get what I need in this life. And whether I have a family or not, I just got to only be tunnel focused on that. Because I can be a dad, I can be a husband, and it could be very, what's the word I'm looking for? It could be a very detached experience, because all I'm looking for is my own gratification.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that was absolutely, I was void of that first coming here, because I didn't know what would happen to change me in the course of 2 years. But now I don't look at it the same way, is the point I'm making. And I'm okay with not looking at it the same way. Before, because a lot of times men have pride in their positions in life and being validated. But because I'm trying to be validated by God now, seriously, and not just saying that, I am starting to understand that what happens in my life is not of my control. I can put my energy out there, put my efforts out there to going towards something, but it's always look different. Every role, every commercial, every runway, every art piece, everything that I've done has looked quite different from maybe what I imagined. Even when it comes to something I thought I was supposed to draw on the paper a certain way, or paint on a canvas a certain way, the outcome is always not what I expected. I can try my best to do exactly what's in my brain. Even when I'm songwriting, it just comes out different. And especially when I'm working with a different producer and not my own mind, because that's somebody else working in tandem with me to come together to make an idea. And so this is God telling me, like, I have these ideas already for you. I have these plans. They're there. But you're fighting me because you're like, well, no, are they going to happen? Now it's all ruined. Now I have a wife and a child, and now the plans are different. Now that was one of my ways to avoid even being obedient in that way.
Yeah.
But I think I was already working on it before I got here to understand that the dream would be different by even taking the leap to pursue love. Because that required being legitimized by no one. That required just a crazy amount of faith to pursue that part of the dream. And as you can tell, that's what mattered most. As much as I love to sing, as much as I love to act, as much as I love being a visual artist and all the great things, I knew that doing that alone for the rest of my life, and just cautionary tales around me, other artists, other people who are saying, slow down, smell the roses, don't forget love, even indirectly, I knew that that's what I needed to pursue.
Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, dreams come with a purpose, and they're not just for you. You're supposed to make an impact through your dreams and even represent the kingdom of God, represent God. We're made in his image, right? So for your case, how would you tell someone who is married?
I was just about to ask you a similar question,
and still in their marriage pursuing their dreams.
You mean pursuing their dreams selfishly?
Not selfishly, but just alone, without with a single mindset, as you mentioned.
Well, that's the operative word. If you're in a marriage, pursuing it alone, that's an oxymoron. It's not supposed to be alone anything. We are now one, right? We're under a covenant.
So how do you
become one body?
Your spouse in your dreams?
I think before all else, your spouse must know your dreams. Your spouse must know that. Let me give you an example. I've shared this analogy with you, and I want to share with the audience. For a very long time, I was pursuing Broadway, specifically to just be a lead on Broadway. After a while, I was like, I don't want to be a swing. I don't want to be an ensemble member. I want to be a leading man on Broadway. I would go to my auditions sometimes, and when I felt good about it, I would rejoice a little bit. When I felt bad about it, it would be another story. one thing I would do is sometimes visualize. I would close my eyes. If you all can close your eyes and just imagine whatever that dream is. And I'm sure other people do this, but I would visualize the red seats in the theater.
Yeah.
And I would just visualize me on stage in an empty theater looking at the red seats. And sometimes they'd be filled, but mainly red seats, because that symbolized that I was already there. So I would have to always visualize myself there, even if I just got, painfully rejected by audition after audition or got cut from a dance call or whatever it is. I would always imagine myself there, just kind of letting everything else subside, because that would mean that at least in my actual dreams, I made it. And sometimes that would make me cry because I would wake up from that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I thought about it a little bit more, and I said, you know what? You can't keep on going through this back and forth in your mind and visualization. It's nothing wrong to visualize what you want to see. It's nothing wrong to have a vision board.
Nothing, because that is faith. Faith is when you see something in your mind,
right,
and then you put it on the vision board, and
but
it takes action. It starts breathing. It starts marinating or being birthing. Right.
But I agree with balance.
With balance,
it was all consuming to the point where if I were to give someone else advice in a marriage when it pertains to their dream, don't let that all consuming dream take over the priority in what you've established in a new life for yourself, which is your family.
Yeah.
And it's a very hard thing to teeter on, because if this is not something that you've already fulfilled before or during the marriage and during the parenthood or embark on parenthood with your spouse, you're always going to feel unfulfilled like anything else. It's going to be like a drug that you need to have. It's going to be like this thing that's looming over. Many people strive within marriages, but they strive together. And what I feel with you is full support. You and I discuss this all the time. There's maybe a friend here, a friend there. They don't like this. They don't support that. They don't come to this opening. But when you marry somebody, that should be your built-in cheerleader.
Which is why I think why God made that the first instruction in the beginning. It's so important.
He made it a priority because everybody needs a cheerleader.
Everyone needs a cheerleader.
And we're not saying that, it's hard to say who will end up with a spouse, but you need a support system. We pray that everybody can find love for sure. And we pray that it's a godly love and something that's found within the structure of God's approval of marriage. But at the end of the day, you're not supposed to live by yourself unto your own thoughts all the time. You're always going to be thinking and closing your eyes and wishing you're there, and even when you get there, you're still going to be like, but what else?
What else? And you mentioned there wouldn't be any balance with how you really dreamed of doing what you were seeing in your vision.
I want to say this. There wasn't balance, and there also, I was immovable as far as other ways to pivot. I was doing other auditions. I was doing this, but because it was Broadway, I made it my identity that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because I'll say this, I underestimated God's ways. Because once again, I'm saying because a lot. The reason why I'm saying because a lot is simply in this fact. If all I thought I was a Broadway star, and God is like, that's one element of the dream.
Yes. You would have.
It's one facet. I talked about in this podcast,
like
the diamond.
0.00000.
It's like the percentage is so small.
Yeah.
Forget the money, forget the fame, forget the accolades, forget the wonderful reviews. It's one facet.
Yeah.
I can make you so many other things, and God has showed me that. God has showed me that. He's showing me like there's some business stuff I want to do. There's some other things that have nothing to do with the thing that I thought that here's the key. The thing that I thought that if I achieve that, people will be like, yep, we've been waiting for him to do this. Not the thing that people don't expect me to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if your identity is wrapped up in that.
You can't outdo God. You can't outthink God or whatsoever. And you saying there's so much more. It reminds me of when I was in high school, and after high school I was like, I'm not gonna go to college, I'm just gonna go right into acting. And my parents were like, no. But I mean, they were gentle. They prayed and they were like, we feel you should go to college, and there's an opportunity here, it has scholarship. And I listened, and one reason I listened is because I've seen what happens if you listen to God's instructions. And coming from my parents, who God entrusted them to raise me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen and go to college. And because of that, I discovered new gifts. I was like, acting what?
Right. Yeah.
And I was able to implement the acting, the performance into those gifts, whether it's in teaching or work or even business, and still learning and growing even now today.
Yeah.
And us being married, I'm realizing there are new dreams are evolving. I'm learning so much from you. We talked about education last time, which I think we need another part on.
Oh, there's so much more to be educated on. Yes.
Regarding our dreams, it's not one time. Dreams are every day. It's just, do you tap into it?
And are you willing to be brave about pursuing it? I just feel led right now to just speak to that person out there who feels lost in the sauce when it comes to the pursuit. You feel run down. You feel like, where are you, God? Why can't I find just this moment of solace when it comes to this pursuit? I just want to say that you are loved, you are appreciated, and it's coming. It really is coming. But what I want you to do is go outside, take yourself, to a cafe, sit and read a book, meditate, pray, and smell the roses, smile. You know how hard, now that I see my daughter, my face hurts smiling so much when she smiles, and you don't realize how much effort it takes to smile. So that's an exercise. Get your face to be more, malleable now in this season, especially because because it can bring such despair and sorrow if all you focus on, where are you, God? Why isn't my dream fulfilled? Just know that. Don't dwell in the past. Don't dwell in it. I'm telling you from firsthand experience, I still go through my moments, but I'm imploring you to not sit in that space of despair. Truly know you are loved. Yes. If anything, know that God loves you. If anything.
If anything.
If anything.
And that's really good advice. And that one thing I've learned in marriage with you sharing your dream, you mentioned Broadway, because of the support we have for each other, we've realized that not only do you have a gift in acting, but you have a gift in, I always mention this, in cooking, in baking, making really good donuts, people. Vegan donuts. I'm not just saying that because you're my husband. They're good.
Thank you.
He has to stop me. And he's tried different ways to perfect them, right? And I watched him. And then he makes clothing. Our company needed a designer at a time, and because he tapped into that gift, we had a few garments for our brand. So for me, the advice I would give is dreams are given to you as a way of God entrusting you. It's a gift. He loves you. He's your father. So I would encourage you to unwrap that gift. And then when you unwrap it, you listen for the instructions, or you read the instructions, because maybe that gift is just for a season, but it's not your life identity. And that's what I've learned with dreams that have been put in my heart. They're for a season, and that season connects to another one and another one, and there's growth. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys regarding dreams in marriage.
That's great. Well, on that note, I think we're gonna say goodbye today. Yes. We've unpacked a lot, and we've shared our hearts, and I think that there's a lot more to be said about this topic, and I would love at some point, as this podcast, we pray, grows and grows, we can speak to those in person about subjects like this, because I know for me, all I've wanted is somebody who could at least relate on the level of struggle that it takes to really pursue a dream and allow it to evolve. So once again, guys,
That's
thank
me,
you.
Baby.
Yes, of course. Yes. Once again, guys, thank you guys for checking in with us today on One More Day. Continue to stay locked in and do it God's way.
Yes. See you next time. Glad we filmed during the day I'm awake.
Bye, guys.
Bye.